Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 22. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being here with us this Monday, Steelers Nation. Dave, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 3-0 for the first time since 2010. What a time to be alive. How you doing?
I'm doing great. That is great. How old were you in 2010?
Was I 2 years old? How old was I? I was, God, what would I have been, 17?
17. Oh, yeah. How long? You got some time for some stories?
Got a big show today.
When I was
17. Let me consult a lawyer first.
Yeah. Oh, 17. Goodness gracious. Yeah, 3-0. First time since 2010. Obviously, that was the year the Steelers went to the Super Bowl and unfortunately lost to the Green Bay Packers that year. But and then look, I mean, I hate to dive right into historical stats and significance here. Now this team has a chance to go 4-0, and that hasn't happened since 1979. How old were you in 1979?
Not even a twinkle in my mother's eye.
I was I would have been probably about 11 years old then, and obviously 78 and 79 were the last two seasons that the Steelers started off a season 4-0. I don't need to tell you what happened in those two seasons of 78 and 79, even though you weren't alive then. Obviously, a 3-0 start historically plays out well most of the time for teams when it comes to them making the playoffs. Going to be an interesting Week 4 game here. They're going to have to earn every bit of that 4-0 start if they get it. Probably even more than they had to earn in the getting to the 3-0 start on Sunday there. But they'll play the Tennessee Titans next Sunday in Nashville at 1 o'clock with an opportunity to move to 4-0. And it was touch and go as usual on Sunday for the Steelers in their win.
Yeah, certainly got off to a rough start, down 14-3 at one point, but they come back to win 28-21. And really, Dave, it was a tale of two halves, where the first half, at least until like the last, even at the very end of the half, because Houston ended up scoring the touchdown with 30 seconds left. Houston really controlled that game, but the second half was total control, and I mean that literally in terms of time of possession, where really the best approach Steelers had for slowing down Deshaun Watson was just keeping him glued to the bench.
Yeah, the old Tom Brady approach, right? He can't beat you if he's on the field. And
exactly.
Some nice ball possession there in the second half. Nice mix of the look that we saw the true identity. That Texans defense is going to have issues throughout the season. They're going to have to score. They're going to have to. It sounds funny, cliche. You have to outscore your opponent, but they literally are going to have to outscore their opponents in the second half, because especially against teams that can run the football. And because once again, this Texans defense wore down against the run, specifically, I think in the fourth quarter there, and the Steelers' running game got stronger as the game went on. And what do we talk about all the time? Run successful early, and you got a good shot at running more late, and that's exactly what happened with this offense on Sunday against the Texans. And I don't know where you want to start on this thing. I guess you kind of already have, but it was indeed a tale of two halves there. Defense, boy, what a turnaround. We'll talk about some of the changes maybe that we noticed in the second half of the game there. But after allowing Deshaun Watson to throw for slightly over 200 yards in the first half, what they allow, like 40-something more passing yards, right around something like that in the second half of the game there. Minimal amount of plays allowed in the second half by the defense as well, too, after allowing, something like 5 or 6 explosive plays there prior to that.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson threw for 202 yards. He was 14 of 18 in the first half. In the second half, he was 5 of 9 for 62 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick, threw 2 touchdowns in the first half. In the fourth quarter alone, the Texans had 8 plays, 29 yards, 1 first down, 1 interception, no points. And they had no points in the second half. So, yeah, very much a tale of two halves. To kind of reset and look at this game from a 30,000-foot view, from the injury report standpoint, 2 notable injuries that happened in-game. Deontay Johnson has a concussion. He was in protocol. I believe the Tomlin did confirm concussion after the game. And Derek Watt played about a half before injuring his hamstring, and he did not finish.
Yeah, I didn't see. Obviously, it was easy to pick out the Deontay Johnson injury happen on that end around run there. Got smacked pretty good, and he was woozy when he was getting off the ground. I think it was Alejandro Villanueva there, kind of probably noticed it as well too. I think he was the first one there on top of it. And as far as the Watt hamstring injury goes, I'm guessing it happened down there near one of those goal line runs or whatnot. Was the best that I can tell, but I never saw him grab for it. Didn't take too long into the second half before both players were officially ruled out for the remainder of the game there. Deontay was on Twitter after the game saying he'll be fine. We'll see, obviously how that plays out. Probably going to be in protocol on into Wednesday. We'll see if he's able to work on Wednesday. I don't think Mike Tomlin will be able to shed too much light on it other than him still being in protocol on Tuesday. Watt, we'll see about that hamstring injury. Is this going to be something? He's never missed a game, I don't think, due to injury, right?
Really?
Derek Watt, I'll have to go back and double check that, but I think somebody had said that on the Twitter machine there, and it would be quite monumental if he were to miss a game. Let's see here real quick if I can find out these. He has never missed a game in his 4 previous seasons here, so that hamstring would have to be pretty bad for him to miss. And obviously, we don't know. And what do you do if he does? I hate to go into the. What does Mike Tomlin call those? The hypothetical situations here. But what do you do if he does miss time? Do you just activate a guy like Zach Gentry and let him kind of handle maybe some of those kind of fullback responsibilities? Or what crossed my mind last night, our buddy Roosevelt Nix, I think, is floating around out there right now too. If this is a if they deem this thing be a multi-game injury, and maybe Watt goes on the IR for 3 weeks. Now that's really out there hypothetical. I mean, this kid could be back in practice on Wednesday for all we know. But those are kind of the couple of scenarios to look forward to. If it's short term, maybe you get a guy like Zach Gentry to finally dress next week, and Watt sits down. If it's a little bit longer term, maybe you think about bringing a guy like Roosevelt Nix back for a handful of games.
That's a good question and a good stat about Watt. And this is what the second concussion for Johnson. He had one against Cleveland last year too, didn't he? So he's had some unfortunate protocols he's had to enter.
Absolutely. But other than that, bumps and bruises are normally associated with playing the sport of football.
As only Mike Tomlin can say it. Steelers inactives, and this one I think was the easiest one to guess of the season so far, the 5 inactives. And read them off for me, Dave, because I don't have it in front of me, but they're just the usual suspects that I think were inactive last week. Yeah,
no surprises. Zach Gentry, Joshua Dobbs, Derwin Gray, who was sat down because David DeCastro being back, Carlos Davis, and did I mention Dobbs? Yeah. Oh, and UG3, unfortunately, still not getting a helmet there. But 2 weeks in a row, Mike Tomlin's it's made it easy on us, and this is now 3 games in a row the team has not needed to promote any player off of the practice squad ahead of time, and they are still dressing the 48 players obviously each week, other than week 1, which was the Tomlin snafu. 5 inactives in total, and once again, no surprises on that list, albeit you kind of wonder about what's going on with UG3, just not enough helmets to go around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but with some of these injuries, we'll see if someone can get a hat if Derek Watt or if Deontay Johnson is unable to play Sunday against the 3-0 Tennessee Titans. Dave, where do you want to start today with the game, offense or defense? I'll let you choose this one.
Let's start with the offensive side of the ball. I think last time didn't we start talking a little bit about the defense? So why don't we start on the offensive side of football here?
All right, Steelers offense led by Ben Roethlisberger, who I thought played well, although he was so critical of himself after the game. James Conner running for over 100 yards. 3 straight weeks the Steelers have had a 100-yard rusher. Benny Snell in week 1, James Conner in week 2 and 3. Only the second time that's ever happened in Steelers history. Willie Parker had 3 straight games in 2007 running for triple digits. And so I thought, and there was a thing in the group chat we had last night about just talking about the balance of this offense. While there was a struggle early, ultimately you look at this game in totality, there was a balance in being able to throw the ball effectively, being able to run the ball effectively, finish drives, better on possession downs, and things like that. So I thought overall you're seeing this team be able to win through the air and through the ground, and that's the mark, obviously, of an optimal offense.
Successful run rates. Don't look at.
Do you have a number on that?
Yeah, I actually do. And
of course, I asked the question. I know you have the number on that.
Don't look at this thing at yards per carry. I still see people do this, and it's the failed way to do it in today with the way instantaneous way we can get in deeper into these stats here. 20 of the 34 runs were successful, and these are running back and wide receiver runs. Obviously, nothing associated with Ben, with a quarterback here. 20 of 34, 58.8% successful run rate. Turn that hose on me, Alex. Give me 58.8% successful run rate. This team's going to win a lot of football games that way. Leading the way, obviously, James Conner, 13 of 18 successful runs. So I don't know what more to say about that. Yeah, I do. What about those ambidextrous guards? Or as I like to say, amphibious. Now
we need to get the hose on you, because now you're talking about pulling guards.
Yeah, able to pull both ways. And, obviously we've talked about this in the past. And, in the past, Ramon Foster has been able to do that, pulling left to right. But it's just not something that you're going to do a lot of during games. Now, with Matt Filer in there, this team can go either direction, however they want. They can run the old pin and pull, which I think we saw a couple of times to the left yesterday. They can run the pin and pull to the right. They can run flat power either way. They can run the counter either way now. And boy, is that something to watch. Very, very successful in doing that. It really keeps teams guessing. It allows you to look at maybe which of the weaker side you want to attack, the way the defense lines up, and personnel groupings on the field there. So yeah, not only with James Conner on the field as well too. Buddy Anthony McFarland got on the field a little bit, and I'd like to say that, I'll say it. I'd like to say that I saw it coming, and I did. Anthony McFarland, I think, handful, 10 snaps in total. I think touched the football 7 times in total. What a nice way to mix him into that running game. I thought just the perfect amount. Get him out on the edge in some of those runs, which they're able to do. Also, let him run 1 or 2 times in the middle to let teams know that he can do that. Just an overall well put together running game and well executed running game, really from start to finish with the Steelers.
Well said, Dave. Yeah, McFarland was the second back in the game behind James Conner, ahead of Jalen Samuels and Benny Snell. Snell was the last man in, actually. I thought that Filer and Pass Pro didn't have a great game, but I thought him as a run blocker and being able to pull, and of course what we know what David Castro can do, and having him back was a welcome sight. And you saw in Connor's game-winning touchdown was running behind Filer to the right side. Filer with a nice block in space, and the tight ends did a good job moving in space. Ben gave them praise after the game. And so, yeah, I'm happy with that scheme. And plus, the little they do play action off of it, they can false key by pulling a guard and throwing behind with the tight end running down the seam or over the middle. And so there's a good complement in their run action game to those pulling guards.
We actually saw Ben Roethlisberger under center play action pass yesterday.
Didn't he miss that throw to Ebron? Is that the?
No, he made one over that one. He made. Maybe they did one earlier in the game that way, and I just didn't pick it out. But I believe the one that I pointed to on the Twitter machine was a completion there. I think was that third quarter? No, the second quarter, I believe. There, but we saw a little bit of that. The only issue really with the running game, I know you felt it too, is on that early drive. The
3rd and 1.
3rd and 1. Why? I understand. Look, Benny Snell needed some sort of punishment, but that ain't it, man.
Don't punish your offense as a whole by punishing Benny Snell.
Right. You know how you punish him? You put Benny Snell in the game. You put the fullback in the game. You get the lead. That would have been the perfect opportunity to get Watt a carry right there. And Watt in his history is not bad on short yardage situations either. Anything but putting Jalen Samuels in there and then running off of running off tackle there. I cringed when I saw that. If you're gonna do that, keep your offense out there and go for it on 4th.
Right.
would be my view on it. I don't necessarily mind. Look, it's result biased, yeah, but I think you're asking for it to be with Jalen Samuels in there, a guy that's just not used to carrying a football and running games, probably doesn't get many carries in practice there. Heck, put McFarland in there, put Connor back in there. Overall, once again, we're not talking about it probably if he gains the first down there, but he didn't, so we're forced to talk about it, and it was such a good drive.
The opening drive, too. I thought we were getting an opening drive touchdown.
I had it ready. I had it queued up. I had it queued up the last time being against the Patriots in 2018 that we saw an open. We'll get to use it, Alex. We'll get to use it.
I hope so.
But we'll get to use it probably, hopefully, in this next game here. But, took issue with that play call and personnel decision.
Yeah, I think you and everyone else on Twitter. And listen, I know the blocking on that play was not great. And of course, the adage is if you can't block up a yard, then that's your fault as an offense. But Jalen Samuels is not going to be the short yardage guy. He's going to be able to fight that second effort and be able to churn his legs and fall forward the way that we see James Conner and Benny Snell able to do in those tough yard, got to have it situations. So who does that blame fall on? Does it fall on Fietner? Maybe, but oftentimes the positional coaches are responsible for the rotations and subbing guys in. Maybe in a specialty situation like that, he's not as much, but I think that blame could honestly go as much on Eddie Faulkner, the running back coach, as it does Randy Fietner, the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, once again, I get it. You want to punish Benny Snell for putting the football on the field a couple times in the last 2 games, but that ain't it, man. I
do keep asking myself the old Office Space quote that you mentioned. Jalen Samuels, what exactly do you do here? Still figuring that one out.
I don't hate the kid. I mean, he's good. He's good to split out in certain situations, but this isn't Milwaukee Moore we're talking about here either. He's now that McFarland's getting involved in this thing, we're probably not too far away from Jalen Samuels being inactive. Obviously with Watt, if Watt's dinged up, then that's not going to be the case. But I mean, if you got guys like if you got your 1-2 punches kind of in the form of Connor and Snell, and then you change a pace guy in McFarland, you got a healthy fullback on the field in Watt. Jalen Samuels better be damn good at something special teams wise to warrant him getting a helmet. You want to talk about a way to start getting Ulysses Gilbert maybe a helmet. That's probably the one he's got the best chance of grabbing right now, is the one belonging to Jalen Samuels. So what does he do well right now? And I'll tell you one thing he doesn't do well is short yardage stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And the other time that happened with McFarland getting a carry that I think failed, that was Ben going up tempo. They could not sub there. So maybe not ideal to have McFarland in whatever short yardage situation that was, I think, second quarter, third quarter. But that was Ben trying to go quick to try to catch the Texans off guard. So I don't put that on the coaches, just Ben trying to press the Texans.
I tell you, going back, and I haven't gotten, I know you probably haven't either with a fine-tooth comb, and we will when the All-22 hopefully comes out later today, knock on wood. But, I'm still kicking myself for not going deep enough down the draft board running back list, because we had talked pre-draft and said, Man, this team doesn't need another power running back. It doesn't need one of those wafy Dree Archer, Chris Rainey types there. And I just wish I would have made it like Daniel did with McFarland. I wish I would have went a little bit deep with him. Really impressed by the kid. Alvin Kamara-ish, I guess, light right now, but definitely look. I called for it. I said explosive play from this kid, and he delivered one on the edge. Another thing I'm glad that we saw too. We saw McFarland and McLeod on the field at the same time. I love that. I think that's going to give defenses some things to think about moving forward with those guys. I love the way that the motion looked a lot better timed yesterday as well too, and we saw some little bit of hints of that Maryland motion from a couple of years back as well too, with the running back kind of darting out along the same direction of the line of scrimmage there, away from the quarterback. We saw James Conner do that at least once. That's something that they did with McFarland during his freshman year at Maryland. Make a note of that, because you're going to see that again when McFarland doing it. And either some sort of a quick pass out of there to get him open space, or you're going to see the wheel run off of that as well too. So once again, I don't know who had the bulk of the run game coordination in this one, but there was a lot to like about it.
There was, absolutely. And I just hope they continue to use that motion and then use it more, where they're throwing it to the guy in the flat, or making sure it's influencing or pulling a linebacker, displacing somebody, something like that. Because obviously you want to get a home run on that play to McFarland, but that's a worst case scenario if he's open in the flat. What, a 5-yard gain? That's a successful play on first down to get yourself in second and medium, or a conversion on second down, or whatever the case is. So, there's the home run element that you always want to shoot for, but you get a guy in space like that, that's a free 5 yards every single time.
Yeah, and if you can get the ball to him, like you said, in space, in his hands, whether it be a pass or a quick kind of like screen like that, a motion away. To me, that stinks of an easy 7 yards, And with him, as we saw at Maryland, he can take something that might go 7 and turn it into 47.
Absolutely. So overall for this offense, obviously off to a quiet start. They were bad on third down early, started off 1 of 4, but picked things up in the second half. And I thought, Ben played a clean, efficient game. And let's also celebrate the fact that the streak is over, Dave. 25 straight games with a turnover has finally ended. And again, I think those are big reasons why you win these games, these close games, is that ultimately you were the cleaner team. You won the turnover battle by just 1, but still 1 is enough to usually get you a W in the NFL. Just
keep that cold hose running there off to the side. We're probably going to need it a few more times during this podcast here. Yeah, how great is that? And it almost, with that, I guess technically that would have been a turnover at the end. Yes. with Chase Claypool had he fumbled that ball through the through the end zone there. Don't turn the football over, and your chances of winning football games go up dramatically. First time this offense has not turned, the team has not suffered at least 1 turnover since Week 10 of the 2018 season against the Carolina Panthers. That streak started the next week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. How old were you way back then?
17. That was great. And then I think that stat, and the fact that, again, another 4-minute offense situation, which we've seen virtually every single game to begin this year, ability to run the football, close out the game, and never give Houston the football back at the end. And I think this team is really finding its groove and has a good plan execution in terms of just finishing games and not even forcing your defense to go out there and make a play to seal the win.
All right, the passing game.
Yeah, obviously you lose Deontay, and then it was just kind of about a collection of everybody stepping up. Eric Ebron, you see why you paid him. That was such a huge play for him to have that red zone touchdown. It's 3rd and goal from the 10. Ben gets called for intentional grounding on 2nd down, so you went from the 1, and it was like a sure touchdown to 3rd and goal. You feel like you're going to settle for a field goal, and then Ben with a great throw, Ebron with a great catch, and he had some clutch plays on 3rd down. They were using him isolated backside, running some out routes with a reduced split, and I thought Ebron had obviously his most productive game as a Steeler so far.
Didn't we get to see in the second half there? I forget if it was late 3rd, early fourth there. That reduced split tight end corner route on the 3rd down.
Was it a corner route? It was an out route. I guess it doesn't matter. But yeah, the idea is the same. Reduce the split, run the out, and win the matchup that way. And Ben had a couple of good throws.
The touchdown pass, good touchdown. I mean, good pass, better catch. That's why you got the guy right there.
Yep.
That kind of play, clutch too, man. Because I was thinking, man, after that delay of game, I was thinking, oh Lord, here we go. Gonna have to settle for a field goal here after being down there deep and all like that. But and clutch for them, it shows trust between the quarterback and the tight end in that situation there as well too. Just all around fine execution. Once again, good pass, even better catch.
Yeah, I think Ebron or Ben said they'd run that in practice, got the same look that they saw in practice, so kudos to the coaching staff for giving them the right look in practice and then replicating that on game day. But as everybody, it was Connor, 4 for 40, Juju, 4 for 43 in that touchdown, wide open, the busted coverage by Houston. Washington, 5 for 36, Vance McDonald, 3 for 35, Claypool, the one to really seal the game at the end there. So it was not one singular standout performance in the passing game, it was everyone coming together without Deontay Johnson and just a lot of weapons on this team and utilizing those guys really well.
And they did it without completing a deep pass, Alex.
Did they?
Yeah.
What was the farthest pass they completed? What,
it was
15 yards?
It was right around 15
well, Juju's
yards.
Touchdown, I guess, but that's not air yards.
I guess, yeah, technically I have to go back and look at he wasn't in the end zone when he completed that, was he? No.
Which, the Juju touchdown?
Yeah. No,
he caught that. He caught that like 10 yards and then ran the rest of the way.
Right. I guess we'd have to look at the Ebron touchdown to add in end zone. Where did that play take place from?
The 10, I believe.
So that might have been. I'll have to go back. Usually a few days after the initial charting, I'll go back and add in the end zone air yards. So maybe I'm shorting bin one here, but I have it 0 for 8 on throws. More than 15 yards down the field. That will probably get amended to 1 of 9 overall with the Ebron end zone yards added into that there. So that's the area that they need to dial in. If you can start, because he missed James Washington. I thought James Washington did a good job down the middle of the field on one of those, on the one in the end zone there, of having some separation there. I think Ben has to hit that one for sure. Now, were there a couple others? Maybe a drop in there. Didn't Claypool have one down the field that maybe he should have held on to? He hooked on the play. I don't remember specifically. I have to go back and look at that. But got to dial in that deep ball more.
Yeah, I think that's some chemistry with these young receivers, and hopefully that will come with time. The last note I had for the passing game, and going back to the 4-minute offense closing out the game, it was not just through the run game, it was through the RPO game. And they had that 7-yard completion to James Washington, where that's an RPO, it's a power run with Washington running a slant. That's a really strong design and execution, or Washington and Juju are stacked that forces off coverage by the Texans and lets Washington run free underneath Juju for an easy pitch and catch. And then the Claypool reception, that was 3rd and 9 play, and Houston is stacking the box. They got nine-man box against 13 personnel, and the quarterback against Claypool is playing 8 yards off coverage and backpedaling. So you just throw the quick screen to Claypool, and that is a much better option than trying to run into the teeth of a 9-man front that Houston's running. So like the RPOs, like still being able to put the ball in Ben's hand and make sure he can make the right read and right decision for this offense to close that one out. I have an article up on Steelers Depot that breaks down those 2 RPO plays, the design and why they were effective. Yeah,
just play the numbers, right? You get your guy out there on one guy, you like your chances, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So offensive line overall, we got to start with giving credit to Chukwuma Okorafor. What a game he played. I mean, we were concerned about him when he lost that right tackle battle to Zach Banner, but J.J. Watt, and not that it's solely Okorafor versus Watt because they move Watt around his help, etc. But J.J. Watt, 4 tackles, 1 solo, no quarterback hits, no tackles for loss, no sacks. Hats off to Okorafor. He played a whale of a game.
He really did, especially in the pass protection. Real quick to mop up the receiving side of it. 3 drops so far on the TV tape. We'll see what the all 22 tape has to say about a few more. Anthony McFarland had one. If there's one negative that Anthony McFarland had in that game, it was a drop on one of those passes. James Conner over there to the left side on that drive. I think the one that was it the first drive in the third quarter or the second drive in the whatever it was. I think that was the one that stalled for the field goal right there in the third quarter. Had a key drop in that one, and I think on that same drive, maybe even a play earlier, James Washington had a drop there too. So we'll have to see about maybe one other one in there about Claypool and possibly Ebron, but both those might have been either bad throws or kind of contested catches there. So at least 3 drops would have helped Ben's numbers even a little bit more, and who knows, maybe even come away with another touchdown instead of a field goal. What do you think about that pass to that we're counting as a drop to Connor over there on the left side? Hit him right in hands.
Yeah, it was a little high over his head, but still catchable. Same with the Washington one, the play before. It's a little behind. I think Ben made a comment about that after the game, that he's going to throw that in front, but still that's a catch I would expect James Washington to make, so I do constitute that as a drop.
And look, I mean, Ben's still not there yet, right? I mean, especially with the deep ball accuracy, some of his other accuracy slowly getting dialed in here. But I mean, if that's as bad as Ben's going to be for the year, I'll take it, because you're seeing a lot of the middle of the field stuff too. That's obviously something that this offense wasn't able to do last season, much of anything. And man, you get those tight ends involved in the middle of the field. That really helps open up some stuff there. One final note, real quick, on the wide receivers too. Boy, we saw them really move around,
they had to with Deontay going out.
So props to I Killer and all, because you had a lot of guys playing, various different spots, once Deontay left, and that's just a testament of how quickly those guys were able to get ready with that.
Yeah, kudos to Ben. I think his pocket presence has really been the biggest difference from week 1 to now. I think it's improved continually every single week. Even if you look at the Juju touchdown, he has a small hitch up to get away from, I think it was J.J. Watt or whoever the linebacker was or pass rusher was, to be able to step up, find clean space in the pocket, and then make the throw to Juju. He also played in 221 career games, and it's an all-time record, passing Mike Webster, although as Ben commented after the game, no one's going to call him Iron Ben, which is very fair and appropriate. And Chase Claypool played a career-high 61 offensive snaps. That was the most of any receiver, even more than Juju, who played 58, and James Washington's 49. Claypool usually getting the, I don't want to call it Johnny Colton treatment, but the one receiver in a lot of 22 and 13 personnel. So I think that's the reason why he played more than anyone else. But yeah, 61 snaps, and without Deontay Johnson, those snap counts go up, and dude's responding pretty well.
That's a great point that you just made about Claypool and the heavy packages, and why wouldn't you? Get Juju off a couple plays in those situations, all right?
Right.
Claypool's a big body dude. I mean, we saw him at Notre Dame be able to block down inside on some stuff and all. He's an imposing guy. He has the effort there as well too, and he was in there on quite a few. Look, we saw Gerald Hawkins reporting eligible, something like what I had been there 7, 8, 9 times, something like that in the game. And boy, we saw a lot of those. I don't know what you want to call them, jumbo 13 or jumbo 22. We even saw Derek Watt up on the line of scrimmage on 1 or 2 of those plays there. So they went super heavy a few times, and the one wide receiver on the field in those plays was Chase Claypool.
Yeah, it gives you as a blocker, the screenplay, the RPO game we just mentioned, and as a deep threat too. They had at least one play action, at least look. I don't know if Ben ended up throwing it to Claypool out of that. So Claypool gives you that vertical element that Juju doesn't, and that's why Claypool, I think, gets a nod in those situations. All right, back to the offensive line again. A core 4, heck of a game. You get the Castro back. Your offensive line kind of feels in place. It wasn't a perfect game, especially in pass pro. I thought Filer and Pouncey were struggling to pass off stunts and communicate. Not great there, but overall, Ben sacked just twice. Wasn't under a ton of pressure. They blocked well in the run game, of course, and again, the bottom line was they basically shut down and took away the Texans' biggest threat in J.J. Watt. So if you do that, you knew the Texans were struggling to get other guys to step up and contribute in big ways, and so the focus was on stopping 99, and Pittsburgh did.
Only 3 games since 2011 prior to yesterday had J.J. Watt played in and not registered either a sack or a quarterback hit in.
Which, first of all, that just is remarkable in itself. 3 games since 2011?
Yeah,
I know he's been hurt, but still.
Right. This is obviously 2012 on.
Right.
3
How many games is that?
Oh, I had to go look. It's obviously, and look, he did miss a couple season
Right.
and a half in there or something like that at least.
Yeah.
But for him not to, now there was one on the Minihue sack. I don't know, maybe I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe Watt ends up getting a half a sack on that. We'll see if they change that. But regardless, and as you mentioned, Watt does move around. I'm not convinced that he's 100% because he mentioned at the end of that game. And look, I'm not trying to diminish anything what happened there, but he did talk about having to kind of rotate out of that game against the Ravens because of the groin a groin issue there, and he didn't look. He was able to swim the tight ends pretty easily there, but he wasn't able to do that with a core four. I didn't see. Now, was a core four perfect in the game against the Texans? No, I thought his run blocking was a little less than desired on Watt on a few of those things over there on that end and all. But the biggest thing, my biggest concern, probably yours too, going into this game was it was one of the marquee matchups was the oldest Watt versus what's going to happen with a core four, and he passed the test. And for a fourth career start for him, and they gave him help, and we'll see exactly how much that was on the all 22. But he wasn't the reason Ben got knocked around a little bit in that game.
Right. Watt's played 99 games since 2012. So you're saying 96 of the 99, he had registered either a quarterback hit or a sack, and one of those three exceptions came yesterday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So really good job there overall. Yeah, the O-line as a whole, again, the run blocking's improved, and the tight ends too, Vance and Ebron. I think that those guys have made some strides as a blocker and certainly better than where they were in week one, for example.
PFF's trying to give Pouncey blame on one of those sacks. Filer obviously was clear one of them. Gonna be interesting to look at the all 22, and you'll have a sack breakdown. You usually do that on what, Saturday or?
Yeah, it's been a little bit later lately, but I'm gonna try to get it for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, somewhere around there.
One of them was clearly a pass-off issue. It looked like the Minihue one, I think.
Right.
And I'm drawing a blank a little bit. It sure looked like Filer might have been responsible for the second one, but we'll see.
I think so too, but we'll have to go back and check again. The offensive line trying to work in tandem. Some of the stunts and loops, you got to work together, because if you're taking the crasher, you can't pick up the looper until the crasher is picked up by the lineman next to you. So there's a whole dance and timing and rhythm kind of thing and rules you have to follow. So we'll check it out. We'll get back to you a little bit later in the week. But overall, I thought the line had a really strong day.
I do too.
Was there any changes you felt from first half to second half that kind of got this offense in a better place in terms of possession downs and just controlling the ball and just feeling like they had the momentum in that game?
That's a good question. I didn't really see much. A little bit more obviously RPO, I think, in the second half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought they were better on possession downs. Again, they started 1 for 4. I think they finished 8 for 18, which is still not amazing, but better than how it started.
People have a short memory on that stuff and very results biased, because I thought really throughout the game, I thought Randy and Canada called great game. Really, really did. Obviously, when you stall like they did in the red zone on that third look, I mean, we already. It wasn't perfect. We already took issue with the Samuels personnel decision and the play call there, and a few of the drops I think didn't help along there, and nor did the fact that Ben missing some deep balls there. I mean, he wasn't even close on a couple of those to Johnson. Weren't the first two deep balls back to back plays to Deontay Johnson? One I think down the right sideline and one kind of middle of the field situation there. Those kind of felt predetermined on Ben's part there. I'm going to go with it, kind of situation there. So I think people get too caught up in the results biased end of it. I thought top to bottom, Canada and Randy Fiedler called a great game, and personnel usage, I thought all the way around, was a smartly called game.
Yeah, I think that's fair overall. You definitely give those guys credit. There are some, of course, individual moments where we disagree. The Samus play, they had a 2nd and 19 run, which just felt like a punt. But when you have 75 some odd offensive snaps, just always going to be 1 or 2 where you sit there and and second guess. And so I thought overall they did a good job, especially the adjustments. I thought Sunday was just overall a game about adjustments from a coaching staff, from a player personnel standpoint, and how Pittsburgh was just obviously the better team in the second half than Houston.
Yeah, they just, I mean, they imposed their will, especially with that line. They was running down. So it really felt like they were running downhill later in the third quarter and the fourth quarter.
Anything else with the offense you want to discuss? How about just broadly penalties? You got penalized 10 times against Denver. Mike Tomlin brings in officials, only 2 penalties against Houston, so really cleaned that up.
One of them was the grounding, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. One was the grounding,
and the other one was, I don't know I don't know if Ben just decided to change something there on the pass to the to Claypool, I think it was, and Villanueva downfield. Was that supposed to be a screen or what?
Yeah, I have to go back and check that. I don't know what that one was. Yeah, I'll have to go back.
I looked at it like 4 times trying to think, what did Ben just go against? I thought the RP. What was the one of the better play calls? Ebron, I think, one of those over the middle, I think RPOs, and then Juju on the 2-point conversion, smartly called play and decision on Ben's part right there too. The linebacker in conflict there against the run, and really made for a big-bodied wide receiver, easy pitch and catch there on a quick slant.
Yeah, RPO game was strong, and hopefully we'll see more of it. Yeah, on the 2-point conversion to close out the game, all RPOs that were successful. So that was the Steelers offense, and also just overall, 28 points, more than they had in any game last season. So good to have Ben back. All right, Dave, let's flip over to the defense. And again, bit of a tale of 2 halves. There's no doubt Deshaun Watson carved up the Pittsburgh Steelers in their secondary in the first half, but really kind of changed the script. And Mike Tomlin said they had some minor changes to, I think, rush lanes and some of their zone coverages that they were playing. I haven't been able to really tell what some of those differences were. I have to go back and check the all-22 on that one, but certainly a tale of 2 halves for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
Did it seem like a lot of cover one man early?
I felt like still on third downs they were playing a lot of zone because, as Mike Tomlin said, when you're facing a mobile quarterback like Deshaun Watson, you need to have eyes on him. So if he moves the pocket, if he wants to take off and run, you need to have vision on the football. So again, all 22 will be the guide, but I feel like there was a pretty heavy dose of zone throughout the entire game.
I know the 2 of the touchdowns looked to be cover one man.
Yeah, right.
And on the one that Nelson got beat on, not awful coverage. He just never had his feet underneath him, I don't think, and he never was able to elevate on the pass. And it was a great pass, by the way. And just kind of, look, the other teams paid to play and win as well, too. I thought he did a good job, and it looked like he got his head around quick enough to kind of find the football. I just don't think the way his body was positioned on the play. He never was able to make a play on the ball. Never.
Yeah, he got out of face.
Yeah, barely left his feet. Now on the other one, bless his heart, Mike Hilton, who once again overall had a great game. Charles Davis did a great job just pointing that out. He just feet got planted there and was pretty much flat-footed on that pass. Who was it? Cooks, and then Cooks just ran away from him.
Yeah, the one area where Hilton will struggle in coverage is some of those in-breaking routes, and KJ Hamler had some fits against KJ Hamler last week, and then certainly again against Brandon Cooks yesterday. So yeah, the secondary, you're just looking for more plays on the football. You did get that in the second half with that Hilton interception. That was really crucial. I just thought overall, in terms of like the biggest adjustments this team made from first half to second half was in the second half. Well, I know they got Watson a couple sacks in the first half. They did a better job overall just getting Watson on the ground in the second half. I thought DJ Watt with a sack, Stephon Tuitt with a sack, and just not letting him be able to make some of those plays with his legs in the second half that he did so routinely in the first half.
And Watson just phenomenal, a really good quarterback. And if you miss an opportunity to get him down on the field, that's what he's going to make you pay. He really did a good job, especially in the first half, of avoiding those kind of things. Heck, the one of the bigger plays in the game that really had us kind of wondering going into halftime there was the third down play that it looked like White and Dupree were going to get him. It looked like they were going to get a sandwich sack there, and Watson did a great job of ducking that and then even stepping up a little bit even more after that before the line of scrimmage and hitting a wide receiver, I think, in the middle of the field there. That was a big third down conversion right there, because if you stop them, then at least you hold them to a field goal, because they're probably not going to go for it late in the – they want to make sure because the Steelers getting the ball first in the second half, you got to come away with points there. So they would have kicked the field goal had that third and, I don't know, what was it, 7, 8 or whatever it was, been stopped. But Watson did a great job of avoiding the rush, stepping up, making a play, and then the very next play was the David Johnson walk-in touchdown. So you want one to go back, and I forgot to put on Twitter at the time, circle that one in red, because that was such a great play. And we also saw Watson make a few other plays going outside of the pocket, extending the play. You can do that kind of going in there. If you had a chance to contain him in the pocket, you had to contain him. And if you did contain him in the pocket, you had to finish the sack. And on one of those plays, they didn't. So, once again, one of the better quarterbacks that the Steelers are going to play this year did not have much success at all. I mean, he's good, man. It's a wonder. I mean, they've played a tough schedule, obviously, here to start 0-3 in the Chiefs and the Ravens and now the Steelers there. And it just goes to show you how well the Steelers adjusted in the second half, because Watson really had their way with them, it seemed like, in the first half.
Absolutely. I said on Friday's show that Watson, while not the best quarterback in football, is my favorite quarterback to watch. And I think he kind of proved why in this game. And not only just the ability to extend the play with his legs, which is pretty special and unique, but then keep his eyes downfield to make a play with his arm after making a play with his legs. And while he's certainly one of the better quarterbacks they'll face, I mean, they're going to face so many of these mobile type quarterbacks, AFC North alone, with Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow, all guys capable of making plays with their legs. And so the principle of the matter and the same teaching points about containing the quarterback, getting him on the ground, that's going to be a recurring theme of this season, just because that's the way the NFL is going.
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, when you get into that game against the Ravens too, at least this, as I stated last week or sometime last week, this has been a nice little warm up quarterback wise for this team. And now you're going to go back to kind of more of a pocket, I guess, passer, against Tannehill's a lot less. Tannehill still take off with the football on you.
Right. Former receiver, you can still move.
And you've already gotten kind of a taste with Danny Dimes, a little bit of mobility, and then obviously a guy like Deshaun Watson able to extend the play there. So they've gotten a nice little mix of quarterbacks. I think the schedule makers kind of helped them out here with getting them ready. Now, obviously, it'll be a good test again against the run in Tennessee and against a capable. Obviously, Tannehill doesn't scare me as much as a Deshaun Watson does, but we're talking about a 3-0 Titans team here that they're dealing with here, and obviously a former first round draft pick in Tannehill as well too. What was and I know you haven't had a chance to probably finish your charting here yet on it, but and I had to fly through the second half myself. What was the biggest change that you noticed in the second half defensively?
I actually did get through my charting, at least being able to write it down. I still have to type it up and get that all done. But the biggest change is there was no major secrets. Again, I think they did a better job of getting Watson on the ground and just containing him overall. Plastering whenever Watson did extend the player, there was more than the ball out quick within 2.5 seconds. I thought extended wise. I thought on the Hilton interception, just a nice job to plaster, stay with the play. Things that was zone coverage too, so get eyes on the football, get eyes on Watson, then finish the play. So that was, of course, huge. And then ultimately, again, just keeping them off the field. I mean, they ran 8 plays in the fourth quarter. They didn't do anything in the second half, essentially. And Watson, the last 13 minutes and 27 seconds, excuse me. Oh, my goodness. Over the last 13 and a half minutes, the Steelers...
My stutter's rubbing it off on you. Man.
I guess so. One of those days. Of the last 13 and a half minutes of the game, the Steelers had the ball for 11 minutes and 50 seconds. I mean, that's just crazy ball control. It's I think the fewest time of possession an opponent against Pittsburgh has had since the 2016 Bills. So, again, just the key was not letting Deshaun Watson on the field was kind of the best way to not let him hurt you.
And he pressed one too many times. You forced him out of the pocket. Both, believe it or not, on that credit to Ola Adeniyi, I think on that interception. I think he was the outside linebacker on the field opposite T.J. Watt on that play. forced decent pass rush, forced Watson out to his right, and trying to make a play, throw back towards the middle of the field when something wasn't there. And obviously, T.J. Watt bearing down on you. Probably.
Yeah. Well, Watt popped him at the end.
He did.
Yeah.
I think Watt. I think the fear was that maybe Watt kind of dinged himself on that play as well too. But you get the quarterback to kind of press a little bit and make a play. Watson didn't make many mistakes during that game, but that one certainly was. And Mike Hilton was there, and what a big play that was. Overall, it really, and I think that Tomlin talked about it, and I think both I think Roethlisberger maybe talked about it. Big play, really fired up the team. That turnover there, and they didn't let it go for waste either. They marched down the field and turned that thing into a score.
Yeah, so those were the biggest keys. I don't think there was anything mystical or crazy. Again, we'll check the all-22 for any differences and changes they did make. But yeah, the challenge is, the Steelers are built for a man-heavy team, and against these mobile quarterbacks, you have to play more zone defense, and so they're kind of playing a little bit out of their element, out of what their personnel does best, and so that's going to be, I think, a challenge going forward against these athletic quarterbacks they're going to keep facing. But overall, again, the theme for this defense is you get pressure, you get sacks, you get takeaways. Yes, offenses will move the football. That's almost inevitable in today's NFL. But you make those big plays in big moments, and you give your offense the ball back occasionally. I think that's how you win overall as a defense in today's NFL.
What about this sack total this team has going on?
15. They're on pace for 80.
Holy moly! Quarterback hits on top of it. What they have 19 was it 19 last week? Was it against the Broncos?
19 against the Broncos. Yeah.
And how many?
12. I think 12 against Houston.
Let's see here.
I don't have that.
Hits 4, 8 and 4, 12. Yep, 12. Mike Hilton everywhere on the field once again. He gave up that one touchdown there, and he missed another TFL. That he was kind of he could have had on one of those. Was it David Johnson? I think he let loose one time and didn't finish the tackle there. But another good game overall from him. T.J. Watt, they gave him a lot of attention like they should have, and the one time at the end, and what a key sack that was to open up what ended up being the Texans' final offensive possession in that game. They tried to use Darren Fells, the tight end, to block down, and he didn't. He pushed Watt right into a sack basically because the right tackle over there was expecting. I don't know if he was expecting that much of help over there on that side because he overset Wade trying to protect that edge over there, and Darren Fells pushed Watt almost right into the gap there, made for probably one of the easiest sacks T.J. Watt has had so far during his NFL career. But you don't reward style points on those things. Last I saw, they all count, and that was a big sack because it was like 9 or 11 yards on top of it. The Texans offense just could not recover from that. Went 3 and out on that drive, and they never touched the football again.
Yeah, it's weird that Howard would set so far to the outside if he was expecting help. You think you just set inside more because Watt's not going to win outside because of the alignment from the tight end and the chip. So I don't know if there's miscommunication there, but that is the downside of the chips. Chips have their consequences if linemen don't really expect it or don't really know what's coming or how forceful that chip's going to be. That can put them in really bad situations. Back to the sack numbers. Steelers have 15 sacks through 3 games. That is the second most sacks they've had through 3 games since sacks became official in 1982, only trailing 83 when they had 17. They are the first defense with 15 or more sacks in the first 3 games since the 2016 Minnesota Vikings. So even by their lofty standards, they're on a crazy sack pace and did not blitz a whole lot. I do not have the official numbers yet, but I can just tell looking at my notes, their blitz rate came way down considering where it was at 60% plus the first 2 weeks. And so I did say, pregame that I think you have to scale back the blitz to try to beat the Texans, and it seems that they did.
And probably missed a couple in there as well, too. We already talked about the Watt and Dupree. That probably should have been a sack that was split, and it seemed like there might have been one more that somebody missed during the game. Do you remember it?
No, there's the Watt and Dupree one that they're giving to Devin Bush in Dupree right now. That may be a stat correction later in the week. But yeah, getting it from a lot of sources still. And again, a better job getting guys on the ground. And Stephon Tuitt, played a great game. And that one series he took over had the tackle for run stuff on second down, the sack on third down. And so you just have a lot of weapons on this defense. And an offense can only do so much in terms of trying to give help because you're going to get one-on-one matchups somewhere, and someone's going to win that battle. And
people were saying finally with Tuitt. I thought Tuitt's played well the first 3 games. It's just so much, you might not be racking up the stat sheet because of the talent on the field with you. So I just think finally Tuitt's game translated to the stat sheet more so than just the tape. If you will. There, I thought Terrell Edmonds played a much better game in this one. Especially coming up and breaking down and being reliable as a tackler after the catch, if you will.
Yeah, you're seeing some improvements there. Even in coverage, it looks a little bit better than where it's been. The stat I'm looking for is I want these safeties, and it's funny I'm saying safeties. Usually this arrow is pointed squarely at Terrell Edmonds, but it's been 10 games since any Steelers safety has recorded an interception and maybe even a turnover. I'll have to double-check those numbers, but obviously Minkah, teams will throw it away from him. They're trying to roll Minkah down a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage, so they're trying to do some things to get him to make more of an impact. But yeah, 10 straight games without an interception by a Steelers safety is a streak I hope ends pretty soon.
And Tyson Alualu, who didn't light it up really on the stat sheet, I thought had another strong game. That guy's playing Pro Bowl level right now. Another a key pass defense, I think, in the second half as well too. If he doesn't get home, he knows to get those long arms of his up. And another pass deflection for him. So I thought a good game for him. Well, tell us about Devin Bush in coverage, Alex.
Yeah, some improvements there. I think Houston still got a touchdown out of it, but that breakup he had on Darren Fells was a great teach tape kind of play of just never giving up on the play. Bush went for the breakup on that seam on the left sideline to Fells and missed it at first, but then came down with his hand at the end to play through the hands and knock the ball out of Fells' hands. And so that was a big play. Fells is 6'7", and he is a red zone weapon. Mike Tomlin talked about that prior to the game about, they know that they're going to use Darren Fells, their 6'7" tight end, inside the 20. And so that was a great rep for Devin Bush, ultimately all for naught because Houston still found the end zone on that drive, but a really nice play there for Bush, who, of course, has struggled against tight ends in coverage.
There were issues. We've talked about this. We know it's going to happen, and it's going to happen moving forward here. Their teams are going to isolate Vince Williams. It was a good game statistically. He's great against the run. What's he got, like 8 TFLs?
Yeah,
tops in football. What he does well, he does it really, really well. What he doesn't do well, teams are on to. You can't, and sometimes you can't set him up to do certain. They should.
Don't put Brandon Cooks on.
Right. You don't set him up and put Brandon Cooks out in the slot there. But I think I'll have to go back and look what the personnel on the field there. But schematically, that's going to get you killed. And also on the play with Bush on the breakup in the end zone, and you're going to see this again, they had David Johnson on the angle route there for an easy touchdown against Vince Williams.
Yeah, Vince usually plays those angle routes well, but I did see that still shot you posted and gave up a lot of space, so I'll have to go back and double check that one. There's certainly limitations with Vince Williams, no doubt about it, but again, overall, he sees more help than harm for sure. And I just got to give a shout out to this run defense as a whole. 29 yards is all Houston had on the ground. They were just making basically every single team they faced one-dimensional, forcing them to win through the air. That helps your pass rush, forces teams to go off schedule, and really focus on the pass game. And it'll be a very good test against Tennessee, of course, with Derrick Henry. But this run defense is, I believe, the best in football right now.
The walk-in touchdown by Johnson. Highsmith, not a good job there on the edge on that one. I think Joe Hayden cheated a little bit too far inside as well, too. You just hate to see those kind of easy walk-in touchdowns on that. Once again, Highsmith trapped inside too easily, I think, by the tight end on that play. On the flip side, Highsmith did have a nice tackle for loss in the second half, where I thought he did a much better job of disposing of, I forget if it was the tackle or the tight end on that play there.
I think it was think it was a tackle. I'll have to check.
I don't remember specifically. I remember the outcome, not so much who it was against there, but a much better job there. So growing pains a little bit by him. You'd like to see that red zone defense, especially against the run, do a little bit better job in that situation.
Yeah, I don't know if Highsmith was supposed to shoot that gap or if he was the force player or if Hayden is really responsible for not letting that run bounce. Again, another thing I'll have to go back and check. But, yeah, you don't want to let that easy touchdown in. But just overall for this defense, 47 snaps or 48, I think, technically with a false start is all this defense had to play. I don't want to say it felt like a vacation or a bye week because there certainly was a lot of growing pains in this one. But when I see snap counts like TJ Watt playing 39, Hayward 37, Tua 33, it's nice to have a game where you're not playing 65 snaps.
And and until I started compiling those this morning, I didn't realize that, and it was a good feeling to go through that and see some of these guys playing less than 40 snaps, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Especially now having to get ready for a tough physical, what's probably going to be a tough physical game against the Titans, who can run the football there. Who, by the way, looks like they've lost their tackle, Taylor Lewan, at least for this upcoming game. That's a huge blow for them, for their left tackle not to be able to play in that game.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. That is definitely a huge loss. They lost Jack Conklin in the offseason, so definitely some new tackles there. And if Pittsburgh can continue their steady run defense, again, Tennessee will be a great test of that with Derrick Henry. They're going to make this team one-dimensional. I'll have to check on A.J. Brown, the Titans receiver. He's been out with a bone bruise in his knee, and if they don't have Lewan and they don't have A.J. Brown, and if Henry's going to be bottled up, then Steelers are going to be in a really good spot defensively.
Yeah, you've got to make you cannot let Derrick Henry control this game. You have got to make Tannehill beat you down the field. It goes back to kind of the we talked about pregame, I think, with the Chiefs, or not Chiefs, the second game against the Broncos. Make them throw the football down the field and beat you, because look, Tannehill is not Deshaun Watson when it comes to extending the plays. I don't think. I mean, yeah, he could take off, but look, they don't want him running around and taking hits in the secondary.
Right.
So I think you got to get in a situation where you bottle up that run and then make Tannehill beat you down the field.
To go back to the Steelers in the secondary, is there any concern about a Steven Nelson who isn't having the success he had last year, or any other pieces, Joe Hayden? Or is there any additional worry, or do you just kind of say, well, you're facing a good quarterback, they're going to make plays, and that's just life in the NFL?
I think the most concerning one was the touchdown, on Nelson was one of the most concerning ones. Rushing coverage has got to go hand in hand for this defense to work, though.
Yeah, so no real red flags getting raised with Nelson?
I've got a yellow flag up.
Okay.
The surf is picking up a little bit here, but nobody panic. All right.
Okay, fair enough. I agree. Any other thoughts of the defense you want to mention, Dave?
Just you got to finish some of those sacks, and I know we're getting greedy here in the situation, but especially some of these mobile guys, you got to be able to finish. Got to be able to finish these things, So I think that was one of the biggest letdowns, and the Hilton, they gave up far too many explosive plays in that first half, and not just to one guy. It was like 5 different receivers, I think, gave up far too many explosive plays there, and if you give up the explosive play, even if you're bottling up the run, you give up the explosive plays. That's enough to keep teams around there, and they let Watson just march down the field in that 2-minute situation. After you had a big positive there going down and scoring, to let that happen, that was what hurt the most. That made me kind of question what the outcome of the game might be, was that particular drive by the Texans offense to come down the field in that situation.
That was crushing because this team is so good at that 2-minute drive where they go down, they score real quick, Ben leads them down, calls the offense, and they go in a half, they get the ball back, they score again. And then it totally changes the feel and story of a game. But then to allow Houston to respond and have their touchdown right back certainly took a little wind out of the Steelers' sail. And so, yeah, that was definitely one of the more disappointing moments of the game.
Special teams.
Do you still think that Colquitt's not long for Pittsburgh after the end of that game, or do you think it's got
Well,
a life?
I use that in my terminology and not being long for. I don't think the Steelers are going to switch from him.
Okay.
But it needs to be better. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Do I think he's going to be gone? No. But what else, what's out? What are you going to upgrade him over? You know.
Yeah, bring Jordan Berry back.
But it hasn't been great. They need to get better punting from him. I just say not long for in my mind. You know.
Okay.
I don't. It takes a lot for. I think it's going to take a lot more to get him run out.
Yeah, the net punting has been bad. Coming into that game, just the first 2 weeks, small sample size, they were third worst in net punting at 35 some odd yards per punt, which is really bad. I maybe got a little bit better Sunday. I think Colquitt ended the game better than how he started it. But overall, though, Boswell's been money. Ray McLeod, I mean, how great has he been? Kick return, punt return, had that nice 12-yard return replacing Deontay Johnson. So getting some explosive splash plays there in the return game, which is very nice to see.
Did not like the Deontay Johnson fair catch in the
Right.
punt inside of his own 5.
He's just good for one mental mistake early in the game, and he gets it out of the way, and he plays fine the rest of it. And obviously, he couldn't yesterday because of the concussion. But yeah, that is frustrating.
Marcus Allen really stood out on special teams.
Yeah, two tackles.
2 tackles. Ola really stood out as well too. Mark might write this one down. He's going to block a punt.
Ooh, I like it.
He's going to block a punt. They're going to do something to scheme him. He's going to get through there and block a punt. I really liked his overall effort. I think he took one in the on one of those in the first half. Got him down there. As the old Bill, what was the old Bill Cosby comedy album go? Whatever, if you get hit down there, whatever you do, don't grab down there, just grab for your head. It looked like he might have taken one there.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I did notice that once Claypool started getting more snaps in this game, I think they pulled him off gunner, and I think they had Pierre out there. I think was one thing that I spotted.
Yeah, I would like to see Justin Lane do a better job as a jammer and as a gunner, make some more plays down there. But overall, I mean, I'm pretty happy with special teams. Again, Boswell's been solid. Colquitt ended it better than how he started it, and getting some plays in the return game and no penalties too, which is always important for special teams.
Right. So overall, not bad. The biggest thing that stuck out was the Deontay Johnson fair catch inside the 5.
Yeah, that's a guy that really is truly like the definition of someone that has to warm the tires. Like really just struggles early, and then he puts it together and plays well, and hopefully he can be out there Sunday against Tennessee.
Do you start maybe lighting Ray's biggest problems to date in his career, which obviously isn't long, has been mostly on punt returns. But has he done enough right now to give you enough security that I'm going to live in my fears a little bit here, and plus results too. Maybe it's time to think about pulling Deontay off of there for a couple games, and maybe make him the you need a splash Santonio Holmes type punt return player.
Yeah, but man, whenever he doesn't have the mental mistake, he is just so good back there. I mean, he's already run one back this year, and obviously got called back on the Cam Sutton penalty last week. But I mean, that dude he just makes so many guys miss. And so I'd rather try to still work with Deontay and get him to fix some of those mistakes as opposed to pulling him off that unit entirely. Although I do understand your point.
All right, mark it down. I'm on record.
All right. We'll see, but he may not play Sunday. Obviously, coming out of concussion protocol in a week is a relatively tall task, so yeah, he may not be out there, and they may have no choice but to go with Ray McLeod, who I have a good deal of confidence in. All right, Dave.
To circle back the way you really started this thing off, tale of 2 halves here of this game.
Absolutely, and Steelers were a better team in the second half, and that's usually when you want to be the better team in the second half. And that's why they are 3-0, and why the Houston Texans are 0-3. All right, Dave. Before we get to Art Rooney, and he had some comments about fans, I do want to pass it along to Steelers Nation. Let's talk about our friends over at MyBookie.
Let's do it. crept up on me there. Winning season returns at MyBookie. Winning season means doubling your first deposit. Winning season means Survivor, Super Contest, and Squares. At MyBookie, winning season means hitting all your parlays and props with your feet up, watching your team trounce their rivals. Rejoice! It's time to celebrate the NFL season. Invest in your intuition today. Use promo code TERRIBLE. That's promo code TERRIBLE and double your first deposit. New players get up to $1,000 in free play, designed to add more excitement to the sports you love and the games you bet. So do what I do. From live betting to championship futures, every play you want to make is waiting at mybookie.ag. It's quite simple. Make your picks, win big, collect your cash. Use promo code TERRIBLE at mybookie.ag and double your first deposit. Your winning season can begin today only at MyBookie.
And I'm tired of picking the Falcons because they keep breaking my heart on this stuff. I don't know. I thank God we're not Falcons fan. Thank God this is not Falcons Depot. We'll be having a rough time over here.
Boy, you have to start worrying about his job there, Dan Quinn, in Atlanta at this point. The Cowboys, they couldn't finish against the Seahawks. The Saints, some worries there on defense and on offense, being able to push the football down the field. What a difference not having Michael Thomas makes. Kamara can only do so much there. What else stuck out to you around the NFL yesterday?
I mean, in terms of other head coach firings, Adam Gase, he's dead man walking. I mean, that's a fact.
Dead Gase walking.
Yeah, for real. The Patriots continue their winning ways over the Raiders.
Did the Rams get screwed? Do you see the tail end of that?
Pass interference call?
Yeah.
On the PI call? Yeah, it was pretty questionable. But, Buffalo, they blew that big lead, and then the Rams come back, so that was a wild one. And then AFC, what about AFC North Roundup? You got Cincinnati and the Eagles tying. The Eagles are just a mess, and they end up with 23-23 tie there. The Browns win big over Washington, and Baltimore's playing tonight against Kansas City.
Boy, you got a reason to have the TV turned on tonight. That should be a good one, right?
You picked KC, and I went Baltimore. I think is how that went.
I believe so. Tennessee and Minnesota. What an interesting game that one was.
Yeah, what a wild season for Steven Kostowski, the Titans kicker. That terrible week one. He's made game winners still in all three games, ultimately, including a 50-something yarder, I think, to beat Minnesota yesterday.
Right. New England easily handled the Raiders. The San Francisco easily, even missing out on all those with those injuries there. What's going to happen in Chicago right now? They have no choice. They've got to stick with Nick Foles right now, right?
100%. He led him back to victory yesterday. It is the Nick Foles era in Chicago.
Indianapolis just keeps rolling on. Yeah, look at their opponents, blah blah blah. But they're right here in the heart of this thing right now. And the Cardinals let one slip away against the Lions, right?
Yeah, they did. Murray threw a couple interceptions, his worst game of the season. To go back to the Titans briefly, they allowed, 200-plus yards on the ground to Minnesota. Dalvin Cook went for, I think, $189, and so hopefully the Steelers can continue their rushing success against Tennessee next weekend.
Tampa Bay did what they were supposed to do. Watch out for Green Bay, man. Aaron Rodgers and that offense is back, man.
Without Devontae Adams, no less. Alan Lazard. Right. I remember watching Lazard I think at the Senior Bowl, and he just looked like maybe a guy that couldn't get separation, but when you're 6'5" and the hops that he has, the dude's making some big plays.
Sure is. Down the field. Boy, that piano got heavy on his back, but on one of those there. But, if you can explosive plays, man, can't talk about them enough.
For sure. All right, Art Rooney was on Steelers Nation Radio, I think, prior to the Texans game yesterday, and is very eager to hopefully have fans back in the stands at Heinz Field as soon as possible. He was saying that, quote, "I really think that in a big outdoor venue like this," of course referring to Heinz Field, "we can have hopefully 20% occupancy in the building." So I know they're still working with government officials, and there's no really clarity on if and when having fans at Heinz Field will happen, but Art Rooney is hopeful, and I do hope they have fans in the stands at some point this season.
Yeah, I think it's coming. The league in the whole is doing a great job with keeping down the positives and all like that, positive tests and all like that. So I think it is time. I think at least by the time the quarter season mark gets here, they need to be around 20-25% occupancy in these stadiums.
Do we know if fans will be there in Tennessee and Nashville Sunday? I think they will. Do we know?
Didn't we have the report already that X amount was going to be there?
Yeah, I that was a couple, like 2 months ago, though, wasn't it? That was their plan.
I thought we
I'll
had.
have to look
I
that
thought
up.
we had something since then that said X amount percent was going to be in there. I thought, didn't we even write about that? I think.
Did we? Let me pull up an article from NFL.com. Hopefully, an ad does not play while I'm trying to do that. The Tennessee Titans announced Thursday. This was a week ago. There's the ad that was playing. The Titans announced Thursday they will have limited capacity for 3 home games in October. So the second home bout against the Steelers October 4th will be open to 10% of the full capacity. So about 7,000 fans, I think, should be there in Nashville Sunday. So that'll be the first time the Steelers have played in front of a crowd this season.
Don't be surprised if the secondary market ends up with a lot of Steeler fans being part of that 7,000. I wouldn't be surprised a bit.
Yeah, no, you know how Steeler fans are. All right, I think that was, I don't know if Art really said anything else that was really notable, but that was certainly the big thing to hopefully have fans in the stands.
Boy, we got a lot. It feels like we're behind already in Monday, and we got a lot of content already on the site for Monday, and we're behind already here. Let's get to some emails. How about it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's see, from JJ writes in, 11 personnel. Hey, guys, JJ from Lexington. This question might be too early to ask, but when the Steelers lined up with 3 wide receivers post-Johnson injury, who is outside and who is in the slot? Did Ebron line up in the slot, too? We don't have one good thing is I've already got the charting formatted and sent off to Tom. Tom hasn't gotten it back yet. It'll probably happen later today in the All-22. We haven't looked at that yet. I know they moved him around a lot.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I was trying to see who was playing the X. I mean, Juju was kind of always my thought as the backup X because, hey, he's the most experienced receiver, has played a little bit of it before 2018, the finale against Cincinnati, the AB AWOL game. Juju played the X. That one. A lot of times, though, like I said, Eric Ebron ended up being the backside receiver, 3-by-1, and they were just getting him isolated in some one-on-one matchups against man coverage. And so, kind of in that sense, he was sort of the backside X receiver of using Eric Ebron. But as you said, Dave, once Tom sends the charting in, we were able to chart who's slot, who's outside, and so we'll be able to give you a concrete answer once we get that information from Tom.
Let's see here. Looks like we got some breaking news or somewhat breaking news coming in here, Alex, from Ian Rappaport. Derek Watt suffered a grade 2 hamstring pull, source said, which means he'll miss a couple of games. The ultimate tag host and special teamer left the win over the Texans early. So that's it's a little bit of news there. I'm more confident about Deontay Johnson, obviously, coming off of the concussion. And this is not going to be good with Watt. And as we talked up at the top of the show here, I think we'll get a good sense of what they might want to do. Here's one thing you might want to do. You might want to go ahead and get Roosevelt Nick signed to the practice squad, right?
Yeah, could they potentially IR Watt? Only miss 3 games. That
Sure.
might be the length of the hamstring, and then you bring Nick's back that way, so you don't have to have Watt's roster spot even taken up for that 3 weeks.
That sounds like it could be a plan there. Plus, you get the help on special teams and Roosevelt Nix too, right? So,
right, absolutely.
And you don't have not a lot of coaching probably needs to go on during the week with him. So my best guess would be, at least in some form or fashion, bring Roosevelt Nix back to the practice squad that way, and then if you need to promote him, you promote him, and then go from there. So we'll see. But at the very least, we're speculating way early here. At the very least, it doesn't sound like Watt will be ready to play against the Titans.
Yeah, and so that'll be definitely a loss because their intention was to come out heavy against Houston. They were coming out 22 personnel. Watt played 7 snaps in the first half alone before going down. He would have played a lot more, obviously, to try to close that game out had he been available. So they definitely want to have some sort of fullback and short yardage option.
JJ goes on to say, my game ball goes to Okorafor. I'm sure he had help, but saw times where he didn't and looked to be up for the challenge. Who gets your game ball? He asked. He says, I look forward to hearing you guys break down the whole game. Steelers Depot staff, top of the line. Who gets your game ball?
Well, thank you for those kind words, JJ. I mean, Okorafor is a really good option. I'd be pretty tempted to agree if I wanted to go with someone else. I would just say the coaching staff as a whole in terms of the adjustments that they made. I think that kind of proves the coaching staff where Steelers definitely got punched in the mouth early, and usually those teams will fold in those moments. Teams to get hit early, but Pittsburgh bounced back and really played the better ball in the second half.
I thought Juju played a good game top to bottom, so I'm going to give maybe I don't know, maybe co-game balls. I'll give Juju half of one, and I'll go with you with the coaching staff for the other half of the game ball there for making adjustment. I blame the win on Randy Fichtner and Keith Butler. How about that?
I like the framing of that. Very sneaky at you.
Only I can do that stuff, right? Jonathan Mason writes in, Alex and Dave, is what we're seeing from Colquitt going to get better, or is this just who he is at this point of his career? Also, do you think they should make the switch to Ray for punt returns as well, given Deontay's decision-making ball security woes? It's great to be 3-0. Thanks, as always, for your detailed analysis. Funny how we just kind of hit on that. I don't know if I don't think Colquitt's going to get. Well, I'll tell you this, it might get better because I'm not sure it can maybe get much worse when it goes to go maybe on cork one or two of them or get a bounce here or there. I don't think they're going to make a change on the punter yet. Should they switch to Ray? I think Alex and I just had a pretty decent conversation on that.
Yeah, I'm not expecting it to happen. Again, Deontay, that Giants game was rough, but since then the technique and him ball security wise has been fine, and so I know he's capable of it, and so I just want to continue to work with him on the decision making end of things. And if he does that, this guy is a very dangerous punt returner.
All right, how about one from Rick in South Carolina? Dave and Alex and crew, I've been watching the Steelers for as long as I can remember. I'll be 50 at the end of the year. I've been listening to the podcast about 3 years and following on Twitter for about 2. Not a day goes by where I don't learn something new about the game from your crew. Let me tell you, that's one of the things that we kind of stress here with even the new guys too is try to get a reader or a listener, and we try to maybe do it on the podcast as well to come away from every piece of content maybe learning something that they didn't know before. And so, obviously not always achieved, but it's one thing that I've kind of stressed with these guys way early, back when I started this thing way back in 2008 here. So thank you for that. We got a super crew right now. Also, Alex has served as a virtual tour guide when my son and I went to Pittsburgh last summer. Do you remember that? Do you remember Rick from South Carolina and serving for a virtual tour guide when his son went to Pittsburgh last summer?
A little bit of that vaguely. I do remember that.
Dr. Mel has helped with a few medical and cooking questions. Ross and I were going to try to hook up for a beer before the Jacksonville game before COVID hit, and he has exposed me to his fiance's musical talent. There you go there. What I'm trying to say is you have put together one heck of a group, and we really appreciate it. Boy, my hat's off, and I was telling Alex before we got on today's show. Boy, just yesterday, just seemed to move so flawlessly with this kid. It's a bunch of ninjas working in the background here. We got a couple of new guys also, in Tyler and Derek doing just fantastic work. They can help out in some X's and O's stuff. Just everybody, top to bottom. Tom. Josh, boy, I'm going to leave somebody out here. David O.
Michael's The Spin is still very popular.
Yeah, Michael with The Spin. Dr. Mel. Thankfully, we haven't had to rely on her too much lately. Ross with the in-game blogs there. I really am blessed, and Alex does a great job of coordinating a lot of this behind the scenes as well. Matthew Marks, he can't say enough about what Matthew Marks he does for this site. Really, as always, and for several years, has been kind of the backbone for that. So, Rick, thank you for noticing on that.
Yep, thank you, Rick. I really appreciate the kind words and appreciate everybody listening and following along this season. It's been a really good month for us. Been really happy with the support from Steelers Nation.
Absolutely. Jordan, looks like Pearsall writes in, what's up, fellas? Happy 3-0. Dave, you called it. You said we would finally get to see Anthony McFarland this weekend, and we did. He's got a check mark next to that. I thought he looked really explosive, and I feel like the writing is on the wall for Jalen Samuels to lose snaps to him. I'm with you there, Jordan. How do you guys feel McFarland did with his first opportunity? P.S. James Conner looks great.
Yeah, I thought McFarland did well. His first touch went for 7 yards. The next, I think he had a drop on his next opportunity, but then after that, ripped a 20-yard run in the screen game too. How about a running back
Woohoo!
screen game that was successful? They had, I think, 2 plays of positive yards, so I'll take that when I can get it. So yeah, McFarland in space, just a different dynamic in terms of a runner, very different than James Conner or Benny Snell. And I think he's someone that you hopefully will continue to get infused in this offense, even if it's just 5-10 snaps a game. Gives you that different element, different thing for defenses to prepare for, and he's an exciting player to watch in space.
They could not. I talked about how I wanted to see McFarland used. This isn't Archer. This isn't Rainey. You can hand him the ball, run him inside, outside, get him the ball out in space. They did all of that in that game. That's going to set him up to be used more and to be used more as a decoy as well too. So a lot of good came out of the way they used McFarland in that game. And yeah, how do we feel he did with his first opportunity? Other than a drop, I think he did great. Obviously not asked, I don't think, to pass protect much, if any. I have to go through it with a fine-tooth comb, but he gives you another kind of running back there, and really the exact same guy that we saw in college tape we saw in limited usage there against the Texans. So 10 to 15 snaps sound about right per game moving forward, Alex?
Yeah, I'm like Tomlin says, game flow will maybe be dependent on that kind of stuff. But to get him involved in some least notable way would be, I think, a welcome sight for this offense.
All right. Shrikant writes in, Shri writes in, first off, positive thoughts for you, Dave, all Steelers Nation. Yeah, thank you for that. Otherwise, we'd be stuck with I ain't going to say that. Love the podcast and all your work there. Appreciate the kind words. On the tweet on defensive NEA, the first half looked like the Steelers were at a whopping 11.9. Truly atrocious. Then in the second half, it was negative 0.16, which is unheard of. I am so glad we got people tracking this, or I am, that we got people tracking this stat here. So while in aggregate, it ended up being around 7+, it truly was a take of 2 halves. Have you ever seen that kind of turnaround? My only thought was the 2010 playoff game versus Baltimore. Shri, good job on that. I had not broken it. I broke it down by game. It was a 7 point. Forget what the 7 point number was, but once you get to 7 point, it doesn't matter what the decimal point is after that. There. I think the strong part was that the second half was phenomenal. I don't know if I've researched what the turnaround, what the biggest turnaround in a game was, but yeah, you hit on 11.9 in the first half and a negative 0.16 in the second half. Yikes! But at least the better of the two was in the second half. So, what do you attribute to the improvement? I think we've talked about what we saw on defense. As Alex gets into the charting of this, we'll be able to answer that a little bit more in depth on the Wednesday podcast. Steelers holding the ball in the fourth quarter? Question mark. It seems like that and the ability to get off the field on third down was the difference. You hit on it, Shri. Good email there.
Yeah, really good stuff. In terms of the last time we saw a turnaround like this, I can't quantify it in terms of a number, but the last time the Steelers allowed 21-plus points in the first half of a game and then had a shutout in the second half was 2015 against Denver. Remember that big come-from-behind victory? Steelers were down, 27-13 at the half, come back to win that one 34-27. So that kind of has a very 2015 Denver-type feel.
Let's see. We got one here from Matt. Based on what we saw Sunday, how do you see Anthony McFarland's usage being managed over the next few weeks? I think we just told you, Matt. Anywhere maybe 10 to 15 snaps in that. Inside, outside runs, use them in motion as a decoy. You're going to see them on a pass out of the backfield. Some sort of wheel or horizontal motion, something along those lines. But I like what they did with him against the Texans, and assuming you don't get down in games big time, I think you're going to see a lot more what you saw against the Texans. Once again, 10 to 15 snaps sounds about perfect for him.
Yep, agreed.
Michael Galupo, right from York, PA, writes in, hallelujah for a turnover-free game and defensive turnaround in the second half, too. My question is random. Is there any word yet on when they'll have fans back in Heinz Field? Michael, hopefully you answered that kind of with recapping what Art Rooney II said before the game. That's up on the Steelers website, and I think maybe Matthew linked to it as well, too, the interview with Art Rooney II. So hopefully here, couple more games, but when this team gets back to Heinz Field, hopefully we'll see some semblance of fans in there.
Yeah, I hope so. Again, I do not know exactly what it's going to take. I don't know if the government officials have to sign off on that or the mayor or whoever. I just don't have those answers for you right now. But hopefully at some point, maybe sooner than later, there'll be fans at Heinz Field.
All right, that seems like maybe a good place to get stopped there, right, Alex?
Yeah, good show today. We will be back Wednesday, hopefully with a beat writer for the Tennessee Titans and start previewing that game and, of course, recapping everything from Sunday against Houston once the All-22 is released.
Boy, what a great day to be alive, right? 3-0 Steelers here.
Amen. And then, yeah, have a good time watching tonight's game. Should be a lot of fun, and I'll be glued to it. And if the Ravens lose, the Steelers will be in first place all by themselves in the AFC North.
Imagine that. Okay, let's see what else. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, help out some of our fine contributors in the process, you can go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the PayPal button, upright navigational bar. Also, if you want an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com, you can do so by going to SteelersDepot.com, hitting the ad-free button, upright navigational bar. For $25 for 1 calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of the site. Create a username, password, go to the login to use that, and you will not be disappointed. So in the meantime, until Wednesday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.